Good evening, everybody. It's not normally I play that kind of music, but there you go. It's December 1st. Well, it is for me. I don't know about you guys, what you're on. But yeah, in fact, I think it's just flipped over to December 2nd. So anyway, yes, we are we are into December, so it's time to break out all the Christmas stuff. So I hope you like all the surrounding graphics and stuff, and there's there's some jingly bells up there, and there's a Christmas tree over there somewhere. I hope you like it all, and I also hope that you like all the new branding and graphics and everything else that you are now seeing. I don't know how well you can see this on my t-shirt. Well, this is my new t-shirt that I had made for the new site and everything. It might be a little bit too bright. Certainly looks that way on OBS, so it may be completely washed out, in which case I apologize. But there we go. James says, mighty fine music. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That is, unfortunately, I can't play the melody. Because if I play the vocal, we will get demonetized in an instant. So we're not going to do that. So you may or may not have recognized the song. If you have, then please put it in the chat. If you are a fan of Disney films, you may well have guessed it, in which case, well done you. But yes, stick it in the chat if you know what it is, or if you'd like to take a shot at guessing what the music was. But it was my arrangement that I did for somebody. One of my friends actually wanted to treat their daughter to a cover of a particular song that she and her little girl absolutely adore, and they love this particular Disney film. So and this was one of the featured songs in that film. So I took that song and did an arrangement of it with the Presonus Symphonic Orchestra to kind of fill it out a little bit, and a little bit of acoustic guitar as well, nylon strung guitar. So there we go. I don't know how many people are here or not, as the case may be. Mike Neighbor is here. He says hello. Who else is here? John Lake says that photo makes me want to sit up straight. Yeah, James is saying much the same thing. That's a great new logo. However, I'm feeling a little paranoid with you staring at me. Okay. Ken was here. He was here very early, and he popped a note in to say that he won't be able to make it live because they are putting up their Christmas decorations tonight. And I'm sure that is the case for a good number of you tonight. And, we may well have a small little gathering because of that. And that's totally fine. As you can see, I have, just behind me there, I have my tree, my tiny little tree. That looks very, very tiny, all and it's little lonesome. And I have to put it on that table so that you guys can see it, because it's so tiny, titchy on the floor. But yeah, I only have a small little tree for my studio. If you remember from my old studio, those of you that have been around long enough to remember my old, tiny little studio space, I had this tiny little tree that was about that big, that wasn't really a tree. It was kind of like a triangle with some baubles on it. And that was my excuse for a Christmas tree back then. So some of you may remember that. Bob T is here. Bobby Booth is here. Right, we can start now that Bobby is here. Can he start until he's here? But yes, I'm very glad that everybody is here. Now, as I say, I've been thinking all about kind of Christmas kind of stuff. We've just put up our tree as well. We did that, in fact, we did that last week because we were both really busy. So last week was kind of like the only time that we could really put it up. So we put it up with our kids. Our kids were very helpful. They love doing the tree. So we got that up. Kirk is here as well. I'm here. He says hello. And Thomas is here. He says good morning. Good morning to you, Thomas, my friend. It is very AM for you. But I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad all my American friends are here too. We've got about 17 people, so we're a little low on numbers tonight. And I kind of thought that we might be, because people are just starting. You're just getting over Thanksgiving. I hope you all had a terrific time, by the way, all my American friends, for Thanksgiving. I hope you had a great time and didn't eat or drink too much. We don't necessarily celebrate Thanksgiving here, even though I have American family. We kind of acknowledge it, but we don't really go all out like you guys do. But yeah, I suppose I should, given that I have so many American friends that I maybe should make more of an effort to try and actually remember when it is and make sure that I schedule everything around it. And I epically fail every year. Mike says, I won't be hanging out long either, working on a collaboration. Oh, cool. Well, that's good. Collaborations are always good. And I very definitely highly recommend, if you are stuck in a music rut, a songwriting rut or a composing rut or, or beat making, whatever it is that you are into, if you're stuck in a rut and you're kind of struggling with a kind of writer's block or arranger's block or composer's block kind of thing, then I definitely recommend you go out and find somebody to work with and collab with on one of their songs or one of your songs. Get them involved in one of your songs that you're maybe stuck with is a good idea. And, just bouncing ideas off of somebody else can really get the ball rolling forward. I know I have done that. I had a songwriting partner for a lot of years, a guy called Pete, who I've known since I was about 18, 19, maybe. Yeah, 19. So we've known each other pretty much our entire adult lives, really. And we spent a lot of years writing songs together. We wrote a lot of songs together. And so, collaboration is a great thing to be involved with. We don't write so much anymore together. We kind of write our own things now, and he's doing something very, very different now. But certainly back in the early 21st century and the latter kind of few years of the 20th century, we wrote a lot of songs together, and we had a few bands together. We had a soul band. He and I kind of shared lead vocal duties, and it was great. It was great working on songs together with somebody else. So I very, very, very recommend doing it. Absolutely. Kyle with the $5 donation. He says, just because. Greg is here. Greg Thomas, good to see you. He says, I haven't been able to get on live for a while. Well, you know what? I'm very glad you're here, Greg. Thank you very much for being able to come out tonight. It may well be a short little show because everybody is kind of a little bit hungover from Thanksgiving, and you're starting to get your Christmas tree up and everything like that. The first weekend of December is always a little bit like that, so it may well be a short little show, but we will be talking about next week. Kind of that is going to be the talking point for tonight's show, is next Sunday. Now you will have noticed that my YouTube channel has changed a wee bit. I've got new branding up there, new graphics, new logo, and of course the new stuff for the channel, like this screen. This is new, and we got my new graphic, my new logo at the bottom there, and the nice kind of the show will start shortly thing in the middle, a nice picture of the mixer. So yeah, I've got that. So I've decided that this week I'm going to unveil, even though I kind of had my little 1 minute video that I put up earlier in the week. Was it earlier this week? It may have, yeah. At some point, I think it was last week, I put up my little 1 minute promo video for the new website and the new store and everything else. And so I unveiled the new logo at that point as well. So we're saying goodbye to the old kind of dark colors, the old black and green kind of look, and we're bringing in New Year. Well, kind of almost New Year. It's December, so December we are launching new things here at Jonny Lipsham Studios. So we're changing the colors and everything else, so we're going for this kind of grey and red kind of look instead. Because the old black and green has been a little bit tired. Bob Studio said I had to search on YouTube to find. Well, I did post up the link in all the usual places on Facebook. And you know where my channel is. Just if you are subscribed to my channel, you should get the notification as well, especially if you've hit that notification bell. And when you hit that notification bell, there's a little drop-down menu, and it gives you a little choice about what things you want to be notified about. Make sure you pick the one that says everything or all notifications. Make sure you check that. And when you do that, you'll be notified about everything that happens on my YouTube channel, including my live streams, any videos that I put out, anything that I put in the community area, any posts that go up there, you will get a notification about all of that stuff. So you can be completely and totally involved in what I do. So definitely do that. Let's see, what else do we have? All right, so here's what, excuse me for burping like that. Apologies. So here's what we're going to do. I'll take some of your questions just now, and then I'll talk about the talking point, which is next weekend. So that you guys are totally on the same page as me and my plans and how I would like you guys to be involved. Okay, so that's what we'll do, because you guys are starting to post a couple of questions already. Mika is here. He says, hello all, sorry I'm late, traffic is thick. What, you mean traffic is stupid? Yeah, quite often traffic can be very thick indeed. Quite often traffic needs to go and take an IQ test. I'd agree with that. Let's see. Is this a Christians only show? No. I'm not quite sure where you'd get that from. Mika, to be honest. Anybody can come to my show, whether you're Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Muslim, atheist, agnostic, Celtic supporter, Rangers supporter, Hibs supporter, Hearts supporter, New York, New Jersey Devils supporter. I don't really care. So long as you are into music and you are into mixing, mastering, recording, songwriting, arranging, composing, all of those kind of things, and you're into music theory, music history, those are kind of what my channel's about. My channel is not about religion or politics. So, there you go. Let's go up to Pop Studios' question. He says, question mark. What DA are you using? DA. I'm not right sure what you're talking about there. Are you talking about my district attorney? I don't know. Or do you mean what converters am I using? Good question. I am using, my interface is the PreSonus Studio 1824, the USB-C version, so it's the nice black one with the blue trim. So I'm using that. That's my interface, and I actually have two interfaces, actually. So my mic and my piano are connected to the 1824. The output of the 1824 goes into my PreSonus monitor station. In the monitor station, the signal is split into two exact copies. One goes to my speakers and my headphones. The other copy goes into my second interface, which is an Alesis IO2. And that is what OBS and Camtasia, which are my two screen capture softwares that I use. It's those two that I use to make my videos and to make this live stream possible, so that you could hear the music at the start and hear the piano and hear me talking and everything else. So that's what my second interface is, and that's probably what you're hearing. You're hearing the result of that because it goes out of one interface and then into another one. So that's how that works. John says, who do you publish your songs with? I have my own little publishing company called Jonny Lipsham Music. Beatrice is here. Hello, Beatrice. Good to see you. Looking festive. Yes, I try to. Carl says, is too interfaced. I like it. That's very good. That's very good, Kyle. I appreciate the humor there. So, yes, I have two interfaces because I am on a Windows system, and on a Windows system, you cannot aggregate devices. You just can't do it unless your device has a loopback facility. Now, the 1824 has a loopback facility, so I could loop back straight through the same interface and only use one interface. I could do that. I just haven't set it up that way. I could. But I mean, my setup, the way I have everything set up just now, predates having the 1824. Before I got the 1824 earlier this year, I think it was. I think it was earlier this year. I can't remember. I had the AudioBox USB, the old original AudioBox USB, the very, very first one that they made, that they've been making for nearly 10 years. I don't think they make it anymore. The AudioBox USB 96 is the one that replaces that now. That's the kind of modern, updated one of those audio boxes, those old 2-channel audio boxes. It's in pretty much the same chassis, more or less, but it just has a higher sampling rate than the original one, which was only 44.1 or 48. I don't think it went any higher than that. Mika says, so are we listening to an Alesis IO2? Yes, you are, because OBS is listening to the IO2, and that is what is broadcast to the internet. So my PreSonus interface, audio goes out of that into the monitor station, then out of the monitor station into the IO2, and that's what you're hearing. And it is a very cheap little 2-channel interface. And it does exactly what I need it to do, and there's no noise, there's no coloration, as far as I can tell. Sounds pretty good. Bob says, somebody seems cranky, all good. No, I just didn't know what you meant by DA, to be honest. I wasn't sure. But I do now, so that's good. So who else is here? Let's see. A glass of wine will take care of it. Almost there. Yeah, these days, you know what? I hardly drink a thing. I used to drink like a fish. And then I went to rehab, and now I don't drink at all, hardly. I have a glass of wine and maybe a glass of wine at Christmas, on Christmas Day, with the Christmas dinner, and then I'll maybe have a glass of champagne for New Year's. And then the next time I have a drink will maybe be at Easter for Passover and all of that. So I'll maybe have a glass of wine then, and then of course my birthday in October. That'll be the next time I drink. And that's about as much as I drink. So I'm not completely teetotal, but I am more or less completely teetotal. So I'm kind of tea less than total. Or tea almost total. Can I say that? Can I say tea almost total? I don't know. But that's kind of what I am. Bob keeps on deleting his messages. Bobby Booth says, so you're saying that the audio box is being replaced. The old original audio box USB was discontinued some time ago. The audio box USB 96 is the device that kind of takes over from it. It's the updated version of it. You can go check that out in the PreSonus website. You can see it there. And of course, the Studio series of interfaces are awesome. From the 2.4 all the way up to the 1824, they're fantastic interfaces. I think I've had all of them in this studio at one time or another during the testing phase, so they are pretty cool. I was just curious what converters you use for recording. Yeah, I just use the PreSonus Studio 1824, and that does everything that I needed to do. So I have to be honest, I have very little knowledge as to what is actually under the hood in this particular interface, other than it works really well, it sounds great, it captures my recordings great, and the monitor, the little LED monitoring on the front panel is really, really great. It's pretty accurate, and it means that I can make sure that I am gain staging on the way in, so that I have good conservative levels going in, and I'm not clipping and all that kind of stuff. When I'm singing or when I'm playing piano, whatever I need to do. Toby Phillips says, tea addict. Yes, that's exactly what I am. I have replaced alcohol with tea. You're quite correct. And I have swapped out the Presonus mug for this guy. This is my tea mug for the Christmas period. My Presonus mug is in the cupboard, as is my Fender mug. I love my Fender mug. I have had that for many years. So let's see. What else do we have here, guys? Oh. Come on. Oh gosh, we've got 26 people here. Good grief. 26 people come to watch me kind of waffle inanely. Well, I appreciate all 26 of you. You guys are awesome. So, so that's the interface setup that I have for doing everything, for making videos. I also have the Series 316 mixer as well, which is sat kind of right in front of me. It's a little bit out of shot. You guys can't see it. And I use this mostly for DAW mode, but if I am multi-micing anything, which given this size of room is a little bit more likely than it was in my old room, but still not very likely. If I'm multi-micing something and I need lots of I/O, then this guy is perfect for it. I take this out, I take the mixer out and do live sound at my kids' school sometimes for their plays, their shows, that kind of stuff. So I take it out then, and otherwise it sits in the studio, and I use DAW mode for Studio One, and it's actually really, really great. I love DAW mode. Some people don't like it, but I do. I really do like it. I get on with it really nicely. And the secret is kind of not just using the faders and kind of stopping there. And some people do. Some people just use the, they'll just grab a fader and that's about as far as using DAW mode goes. I actually use the fat channel control section of the Series 3 for controlling parameters in the plugins as well. So if I open the Pro EQ, I can control all the parameters in the Pro EQ from the fat channel section, and I can control panning. There's a little central knob just underneath the screen here. I can turn that, and that will do panning and stuff. And I've got the Fader Port 2018. I got that just recently. Because my original fader port, which I've had for about 6 years, the motor finally packed in, and the motor wouldn't motorize the fader anymore. So I thought, time to get a new one. So I did. Got the Fader Port 2018, which is fantastic. By the way, if you haven't got one, go get one. Old School Funk and Soul. You know what? I love Old School Funk and Soul. So that is a great name for your YouTube handle. I love that. You say, just got an Audiobox 96 from Presonus, but haven't set it up yet. Suggestions or reviews? It is a great device. It is almost exactly like the original Audiobox USB. The addition is that I think all of the internal stuff is new. The insides of it are new, and it'll work at a higher sample rate. It'll work at 96K, whereas the original one was just 44 or 48. So that in itself is a good improvement. But here's the thing with those audio boxes. They are flipping robust. I don't know if anybody has ever seen on the Presonus YouTube channel. You can go onto their YouTube channel and hit and search for Audiobox 96, and my good friend Justin Spence, who is no longer at Presonus, he basically drove his truck over the device. So they showed, I think in the video, as I recall, they showed him using it in the Presonus studio to record some guitar or something like that. And then they took it out the studio, they put it in the parking lot, and then they ran over it with his truck a couple of times. And then they took it back into the studio and they plugged it in and they recorded his guitar again. And it captured it perfectly, just like it had the first time. They are insanely robust. So if you are if you're doing lots of remote recording, and you only need a couple of channels, you don't need any more than that, just 2 channels, then you can sling it in a bag and you can take it with you and you can chuck it around and it will not get damaged. It hardly, it is so well built from that point of view. The other thing to note about it, other than the increased sample rate, is just how good the preamps on them. They are X-Max preamps, and they are really, really good. Really, really good quality, and of course you get MIDI I/O as well on the back. So you get 2 channels in, and you get the 2 channels out for your speakers, and then you also get MIDI I/O as well. It's a really good device. Very, very well built indeed. So yeah, highly recommend it. Mika says, most all converters are excellent today. It's the analog signal path that has become most critical in our interfaces. That's why cheap Behringer sucks. I don't think I've ever owned any Behringer products other than I have 2 microphones of theirs, but I have never had an interface of theirs. Hang on, there's something in my eye. I have never had any of their interfaces, so I can't really speak to whether their interfaces suck or don't suck, to be honest. But I have a couple of their mics. I have the B1 and the C1, and they're good mics. I made a record a few years back where I used just that one mic. I could have used other mics. I couldn't be bothered. I just used that mic. It was there. It worked. It did the job, and the quality of the recordings was great. So I've not tried my other mic out yet, but I'm gonna probably on my next record. I will probably do it. I am planning another EP for 2020. 2020 is a nice round number, just like 2016 was a nice, even number. So I suppose I could have gone for 2018 as well, but didn't. So anyway, yeah. I can't really speak to Behringer stuff. Bobby says, I'm addicted to iced tea. Sweet, that is. You know what? I don't like the idea of iced tea at all. Tea is meant to be hot, man. But maybe that's because I'm British. I'm Scottish, I'm British, and we're made of strong stuff. Let's see. Bob just says, running Scarletts. Oh, so you have the Focusrite Scarletts, and I have a fader port on the way. Wife wouldn't go for the API. Yeah, I can understand that. Bobby says, love the fader port 8, especially with the 4.5.5 update. Yeah, Jonny Gibe's videos on that are superb. If you haven't seen them, go check them out. He has mined pretty much every nook and cranny of the FaderPort 8 and 16, and has gone into great detail on all the new features for version 4.5.5 of Studio One and all the new stuff for the fader ports. So if you have the 8 or 16, go and check out his videos because they will help you massively in getting the most out of those. Let's see, Mike says, I just passed 5 years with my audio box USB, the original one. It feeds my OBS/Camtasia. I have a Studio 192 for my main interface. Yeah, they are great. The original devices are superb. I passed mine on to my dad. So he uses it, and he's just made a couple of records with it. It's worked out really well for him. I'm mixing his EP at the moment. And it's mostly acoustic guitars and mandolins and banjos and that kind of stuff because he's he's a stringed instrument magician basically. So I've said mandolins and banjos and you're immediately thinking, it's going to be folk then, is it? Well, it's not really. It's not really. It's still it's what I would call contemporary popular music, but he just uses those particular instruments and gets wonderful sounds and wonderful colors out of them and brings a fresh perspective to popular music, my opinion. Yeah, he is my dad, but let's see. Jonny Gibe is here. He says, thank you. You're welcome, buddy. They are awesome, those videos. Gotta say it. Gotta say it twice. And yes, the Audiobox USB is an awesome device. It is. Well, I didn't know that. What sold it for me was the Magic Bundle of Door and Effects. Yes, absolutely. The Studio Magic Bundle is really, really superb. I am so glad that Presonus was able to kind of, put all those deals together with those different companies and get some really, really great stuff for free for the Studio Magic Bundle. Really great. The Klanghelm SDDR tube saturation thing, I don't know what to call it other than saturation thing, is really great. If you've never heard of Klanghelm, you have to go check them out. It's a one-man, as far as I'm aware, Klanghelm is a one-man operation. A guy called Tony in Germany, and he basically designs plugins for his own use, kind of what he would use, and he just sells them on his site, and they're really, really good. He has a couple of variable mu compressors. One that is kind of, they call it the MJUC, and it's really, really good. And then it has, there's a free version of it. So if you want a free compressor that sounds great, that's dead easy to use, you can't go wrong with it, you can get a ton of great sounds out of it, go get the MJUC Junior, which is the free one from Klanghelm. And then if you really, really like that, really dig it, you can go and get the full fat version, the paid for version, which is only 25 euros, which I think is about $27 right now. As far as I can tell, current exchange rate is about $26. Definitely worth spending 25 bucks on for absolute sure. I heartily recommend his plugins. Let's see, what mic am I using right now? This is the Rode NT1A, as Jonny Guy correctly and accurately identifies. So let's see. Kyle is away. Good night. Good night, Kyle. Thank you for coming and stopping by for at least the first half of the show. But make sure, Kyle, before you go, to bookmark this so that you can come back and you can watch the next half of the show on replay, because it's going to be very important. So let's see. What was so Old School Funk and Soul says, so what's happening with you next week? Okay, I'll get on to that now because we are 35 minutes into the show. So next week, here is the plan, folks. Next Sunday, I'm going to be doing a special extended show. I'm going to start in the afternoon UK time, and I'm going to go for as long as you guys want to. And essentially the whole reason for it is that I am going to open up my new website and my new store. And I'm going to show you my new courses, and I will have, this week, I will have a couple of little promo videos for the two brand new courses, the beginner songwriting course and the beginner music theory course. Those are the two first courses. I have loads more planned, so, kind of don't think that that's all there's going to be. No, there's going to be loads more over the course of next year. So over the course of 2020, I have about 8 courses that I have planned that I'm going to put up in the store for you guys to go and purchase. The prices are reasonable. I am not charging an absolute blooming fortune. I know that there are people out there that do. For their courses, they will charge hundreds of dollars. I'm not that kind of guy. I will charge a reasonable price because I want to make my courses affordable for as many people as I possibly can, whilst also making sure that I can feed my family and put clothes on my back and keep my studio a commercially viable business. Good grief, Jonny Guy with $75 donation. Well, I appreciate that very, very, very much. He says, from the last few Songwriting Simplified shows, and for being there in a pinch when I couldn't make the show last week. Well, I appreciate that very, very much. That's very kind. Thank you. So next week will be is planned the launch of the new look Jonny Lipsham Studios. Now, if you've not seen the video, there is a promotional video on this channel which I put up last week. If you've not seen it, go check it out at the end of the show, and that'll give you just a little snapshot of what's to come, what you'll get to see in a little bit more detail on Sunday, and you'll also be able to go and explore the site for yourself. And you'll also be able to go and purchase the new courses. So if you are excited about music theory that is taught in a very practical, easy to get your head around way, then go purchase my beginner music theory course. If songwriting is your thing, and I know that a good few of you here are into songwriting, then I have a beginner songwriting course, and I take you through essentially writing your first song and using the most basic song structure that there is, the most basic song form that there is, which is a blues. So right in front of you, before your very eyes, as you sit there and watch me write a song and put the whole thing together in a nice, easy 12-bar blues format. And then I kind of arrange it, and I add various elements to it to make it, nice and polished. So I add things like horns, and I show you how I come up with that in the course as well. And then there will be an intermediate and there will be an advanced course for both songwriting and music theory. And then there are a whole bunch of other products that I'm going to add to the store over the course of the next 12 months. So songwriting, arranging, music production, horn arranging, string arranging, mixing. There are going to be all kinds of courses like that. So I'm very excited about it. Bobby says, yep, music theory is what I need. Well, very cool. And the good thing about the music theory course is that if you're kind of not quite understanding something, rather than in a live stream, I can't just keep going over the same thing over and over to help kind of ground it in for you. In the course, you can pretty much stop and rewind as many times as you need to until you get hold of that little thing that it might be that you're stuck with. And the idea behind the music theory course is that it's meant to be practical. So this is something that you don't just sit and read and watch, but it's something you sit, read and watch, and then you go try out and see how it works. So that's kind of the intent behind that course. And the songwriting course, again, is meant to be practical. The idea being that you can write your own blues song along with me, even if it's a genre that you've never written in before. That's okay. Now, the end result you can do with what you will. You don't need to necessarily send me the end result of your course. You can do if you'd like to. But certainly I recommend that when you've finished your song, having gone through the songwriting course, I definitely recommend that you make that song available publicly. Get it out there. Get it in the public. At least share it with your friends. Share it with people that know you. Even if you don't want to put it out to the general public at large, definitely make it available to people that know you. And who will give you some sound advice as to what, how you can develop your craft further. Not necessarily from a musical point of view, even if you, to your family, you share it with your family. They might not be musicians, they might not be songwriters or, anything else, but they'll know good music when they hear it, and they'll know what to listen for. As a songwriter, I've been writing songs for, 40 years. Maybe not quite 40 years, because then that would have meant I would have started writing songs when I was 4, and I was probably about 8 or 9 when I started. So, 35, 36 years. I've been writing songs. And in all that time, I still to this day will share before any of my songs go out to the general public. The first person that gets to hear it is my wife. And when I wasn't married, the first person that would get to hear it were people that I knew I could rely upon to give me some wise counsel about the song, some constructive criticism. And then that meant that, I could, if necessary, I could go back to work on the song a little bit more, even if I thought it was finished. If they said, that doesn't sound quite right, that sounds a little bit wonky, why have you done that? I would go and fix those things, and then, I'd go back to them again, and then eventually I would have something that, they would be like, yeah, this is great. As soon as they say this is great, and they are tapping their foot, or they're nodding their head, or they have any other physiological reaction to my song, I know that song is good. And I can get it out, I can put it out to the world, and people buy it from that point. So even now, songs that I have released in the last few years, my wife listens to it first. And if she digs it, I know that 90% of people that go to my SoundCloud page or my Nimbit page are going to like it. So definitely I recommend you kind of do that with your song. For absolute sure, Rich says, does the NT1A have a figure of 8 pattern? I think it's just a cardioid pattern. I don't know. I don't think that it's adjustable. Mike says, put Graham Cochran out of business. Graham's been doing this for 10 years, mate. And he's ridiculously successful at it. He is very, very good at it. And he is a very, very shrewd businessman. That is for sure. And he's a good guy. I like him. I'm privileged to count him among my friends. Really, really nice guy. But he has made a massive, massive, massive success with his business. I am unlikely to put him out of business because I think he probably turns over several $1 million a year doing what he does with Recording Revolution. And of course, now he has his own business teaching business as well, that he also runs alongside it, which I think is also now turning over a couple of $1 million a year. So between them, he's probably turning over about 10, 15, maybe even $20 million, which is crazy, and I'm unlikely to get past that. Let's see. Old School Funk and Soul says, looking for a cheap but authentic high-quality horn/brass VAT for pop music. Any suggestions? There are some old libraries out there. I don't know how available they are anymore, but there was one called the Phoenix Horns, which I used on a record maybe 10 years ago, which was really, really good. I still have the library on discs in one of those drawers. I just haven't kind of brought them into Studio One yet. I know they worked in Cubase. I don't know whether they will work in Studio One or not, but I will certainly try. There is the Persona Symphonic Orchestra that has trumpets and trombones and saxophones. You could make use of those, and it's a reasonably good priced product. And I even think actually if you go into the Persona shop, you might find something that might be up your street as well in that regard, that's reasonably priced. Otherwise, other recommendations I can make would be the Chris Hine horns, which is very, very good. That is a superb little library. He does strings as well, I believe. But yeah, I definitely recommend, if you can shell out a few extra dollars, go and check out the Chris Hine horns. I think there's Native Instruments session horns as well. You can go and check that out. But they're kind of a little bit, Chris Hine and the session horns are maybe a little bit on the pricier side. I mean, you said cheap, so not quite sure how cheap you're prepared to go, or kind of what your upper band is. Maybe you could post that in the chat, and we can narrow it down to maybe 2 or 3 products that you can choose from. Let's see. Rich Wrestler says, any good videos out there on universal control in relation to the 1824 interface? Personas YouTube channel, go and have a look on there. Just do a wee search for it. Universal control. There on a YouTube channel there is a little search box, I think, towards the top of everybody's channel. My channel has one. So if if you want to see if I've got a video on compression, for example, just type compression in there, and any video that I've ever made on compression will appear there. That said, there is going to be a course on compression that I'm going to put up in my store next year. But I had a series that I did a few years back, which is, it's a little bit out of date. I did it in Studio One 3.5. I think I did it in Studio One 3.5. It might have even been Studio One 3.2, I think, that I did that compression series in. And so, things have changed. There's the new sidechaining facility and everything else that's in Studio One 4 now. So I think that series needs an update, so I'm going to do that as well. I'm going to put up some little sort of bite-sized videos on compression, like little 5-minute videos. And so so that is going to go up probably in January in the new year. So if you're into compression, that will do that. Do I have any piano dexterity exercises? The fingers don't just don't move the way I want. Yes, I do actually. I don't know how well you're going to see them on here. But these are the exercises that I learned when I was a kid, and I kind of do them when I remember these days, but I certainly used to do them every day. And you do these for both hands. So I'll show you for the right hand first. First of all, don't physically label, but mentally label your fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's going to be important because that's going to help you do these exercises. So the first one I learned was to basically start with my thumb on middle C, and then the rest of my fingers laying on each next door note, so that I can basically have access to those. Yeah, that was a bit drunken, wasn't it? I swear there is no whiskey in my tea. So that I can basically have access to those notes. Which I, as you can see, I do. So this is the exercise that I learned. You don't have to go enharmonically like I just did. I went straight up to the key of D major, which meant putting the F sharp in. But you can do this all on white notes. And then move it up one. It's a little bit of a melody, but it does the job. And you can do it going down as well. So that kind of works. There's another one, which is a little bit of a variation on it. And it's a little bit more continuous. And this one, basically what you do is you put a little gap, a 1-note gap between your first and your third finger when you're going up, but when you're coming down, it's all next door notes. So you'd go, in this case, you go C, E, F, G, A, and then when you come down, you do next door notes. So G, F, E, and what that does is that shifts your hand up 1 note. So that brings you on to D, and then you move your other fingers along so you got that gap again. And then you keep doing that. And you can keep going all the way up the piano. So when you're doing it with your right hand, so when you're doing it with the right hand, obviously your hand is reversed, so you start with your little finger but you still label your thumb as finger 1 and your little finger as finger 5, okay? And then the idea is you put those kind of things together. And then, so the idea is to try and get it to sound nice and smooth. So set a metronome, set a click track in Studio One, or if you have a metronome application on your phone, use that. Set a good tempo, not too fast, not too slow, and then gradually build up until you can go, nice and fast, but nice and smooth, everything nice and together, especially if you're doing it when you're doing it with both hands. Okay, so I recommend do that one up 1 octave, and then do the same with the left hand, and then put them both together. Okay, and they sound a bit crap, and not very melodic, and not very inspiring, but they work. They really get the fingers going. And it's the first thing I do. If I'm going to be cutting a piano track for a client or a piano solo or something like that, the first thing I do is I drill my fingers until I can really feel the blood pumping through my fingers, and then I'm ready to record. I don't just record cold. Never have. It's a bad idea. So I hope that helps. Let's see. PSO is best, worth every penny. Yeah, it's good. Horns VST 50 to 100. I wasn't joking about cheap. Yeah. Yeah, 50 to 100. Yeah. The issue you're going to have there is with quality, to be honest, because making something that sounds good costs a lot of money, especially when we're talking about samples. Because samples means you have to book a studio, you have to book session players to play the samples. And then you have to, you maybe have to hire the microphones as well as the studio space and somebody to actually capture the samples. So it costs money. And, the lower budget sample packs, they cut corners. So maybe they've used a cheap mic, maybe they've used a cheap interface, or maybe they've cut the tracks in a little bit of a rush. There aren't quite so many articulations, and they're a little bit limited. So anything between that $50 to $100 bracket, you're going to struggle to find something that is of high quality, unless you get something that's of a high quality that happens to be on a discount or a sale of some kind. Then you might just strike gold. But especially Black Friday sales or New Year sales, you might strike lucky with something that's $300 that is cut down to $100. You might. So keep an eye out for those kind of things. But otherwise, you're going to struggle, I think. Kirk says, must say, the Klanghelm videos are very helpful. Yeah, they really are. Pretty much he doesn't have loads of plugins. It's not like Plugin Alliance or Waves where there are just hundreds of plugins. He has a few that are really good. And it wouldn't surprise me if that MJUC compressor sells really, really well. There's another one that he makes, which is called the DC1A version 2. I can show you that one because it's well worth looking at. Hang on a second. If we go over to Studio One, I can show you that one. I'll just grab the guy and I'll just put it on the bass track for now. But as you can see, it's a really, really simple compressor. Certainly outwardly, it looks really simple. It's just got an input knob and an output knob. But then you've got these buttons underneath, so you can actually do negative compression, and you can this deep thing here allows you to the compressor to really focus on the low end. So if you want really tight low end on a kick drum or something, you can use this deep thing here. You can have it nice and smooth style compression. Which is what this relaxed one does, and then dual mono kind of does what it says on the tin. really. And then, as I say, you can do negative. But you can really crank this guy. You can really turn this input up really, really high and get some really dramatic sort of parallel compression. I've used this on drums for parallel compression. I've used this on vocals for parallel compression, and it sounds great. It really does. When you slam it, it slams it in a really nice way. I don't think there are any presets. So, I mean, given that it's just a 2-knob thing anyway, why would you need presets? Doesn't make any sense. You just turn up the input until you start seeing some compression. And you've got this meter here. So 0 is 0 dB. Then you've got 4, 8, 12, 16, and 22 dB. And really, unless you're really slamming parallel compression, you're never really going to crank it up to 22 dBs worth of compression, to be honest. But this is a really, really great compressor. I love this guy because it's simple and because you can set it and forget it, and you get a really nice, excuse me, you get a really nice sound out of it as well. So you can be nice and smooth and get nice, smooth, almost optical style compression. Kind of nice, smooth LA2 kind of style compression, or you can really slam it and it sounds wonderful. However you use it. It's well worth getting, and I think this guy is free as far as my memory serves. Well worth going to klanghelm.com and checking. I think this guy might be a free compressor. If it is, and I'm pretty sure it is, then it makes a really nice companion to this guy over here. This is the MJUC that I was talking about earlier. You can have it. You've got the time constraints here. You can have it fast or slow, or you can turn it over to auto and then just turn up the compression knob, and then use your makeup gain to make up the difference. Works really nicely. As I say, I don't think there's no presets with this guy, but really it's a 2-knob. It's a 2-knob thing, so it doesn't really matter too terribly much. And then there's the big brother of that one. This is the main one. I did a video series, not a video series. I did like a 35-minute video on the Klanghelm MJUC. It's in my product review playlist. And it's really, really, really good. It's such a good compressor that I spent 35 minutes just playing with it in front of everybody. It was really only intended to be like a 15-minute overview, and I ended up just playing with it and just completely lost track of how long the video was going on for. But yeah, it's really, really good. So you've got it's basically 3 compressors for the price of 1. Plus you've got this little tray at the bottom here that allows you to get a little bit of saturation. You can play with the tone, the timbre. It's got a nice sidechain filter here, so if you don't want the compressor to compress any of the low end, you can crank that up. You can use it parallel compression style with this wet dry knob, which is very, very cool. And so so we've got Mark 1, Mark 2, and Mark 3, and they have like increasing numbers of controls. So you've got basically the 2 big knobs, and then you've got these timing variations, which are very, very cool. There's a manual that comes with this. I recommend if you buy this that you read the manual and make sure you understand how this little timing thing 1 to 6 works, so you know which is fast and which is slow, because it's important. I think it's fast on 1, and then 6 I think is program dependent, which basically means it responds almost automatically to whatever is coming into it. So well worth going and reading the manual and checking that out. Mika says the paid version of the DC1A2 has more functions and options and presets. Well, there you go. Yeah, so the one that I have is the free one. And it's great. But yeah, maybe I will go and get that one at some point as well. Rich says, yes, that helps. Good. Excellent. And he's practicing as I watch. Where I lose it is going up the piano. It's just more practice. That second one I'll work on. Cool. Okay. Yep, that helps. Good. You want quality orchestral samples? Spitfire Audio is the place. Yes, absolutely. Spitfire Audio makes some of the best orchestral samples on the planet. Absolutely. And as far as I can tell, they are very reasonably priced for what you get. So anyway, that's the MJUC. So let's remove these guys because we don't want them on here. There we go. So I hope that was helpful. 5,200 quid. Yeah, good. As I say, cheap samples. I don't know that you're going to get anything of terrific quality at the £50 to £100 bracket, but you might get lucky. Especially if you find maybe an older sample disc, maybe something like, I mean, you're looking at kind of like old school discs that you just put in your computer and you install them onto your computer. Like I've got something called Pop and Funk Brass, which is, I think it's the Phoenix horns that were a popular session horn section back in the 70s and 80s. Yeah, I think that's what they were. I'm just trying to think. I think that's what they were. And as I say, I used them on a couple of records, back in the early kind of 2000s, which is when I picked them up. And I think they were released in 2003, 2004. But you may well actually pick them up super cheap now, and it's a good library. He says, old school funk and soul says, just got a quad core Dell Latitude laptop, SSD, 12 gigs of RAM, just setting Door VST plugins installed over the next couple of weeks. Cool. Okay. What's the full spec of my PC? And how long did it take to get fully grips with Studio One after a long time Cubase power user? You know what? It took me hardly any time to get to grips with Studio One. Studio One is so incredibly intuitive. That was the first thing that really hit me hard coming from Cubase, was just how intuitive Studio One is. I have never looked at the manual. These days I look at the manual kind of because I kind of have to because of what I do for my job. I have to look at manuals. I have to make sure that manuals are correct. It's kind of part of what I do. But otherwise, I have never looked at the Studio One manual to actually figure something out. It's just there. It's just intuitive. It took me maybe a few hours, and I was faster in Studio One in a few hours than in the previous 30 years in Cubase. And I thought I was fast in Cubase. I tell you, I thought I was fast. And then, coming over to Studio One, it's just like, yeah, okay, some things a little bit new, but you know what? Funk. About 6 hours later, I had a song. Recorded, mixed, and mastered, all in Studio One. I think it was 2.6. Or it might have been 2.5. I can't quite remember. 2013. Might have been 2.6. Can't remember. But anyway, I think that's where I started in Studio One. And I have a quad-core machine built by Scan Computers. And if you are in the UK, and I think you are, aren't you? I think you're in the UK. If you're in the UK, go and check out Scan Computers UK. They built my machine, and they did a darn fine job at building it. It's really, really good. I've had it since 2014, and I have not had a single problem with it. He says, knocking on wood. I've not had a single problem with it in 6 years. It's great. It's a great machine, and Scanner are a really good company. You can call them up. Even when the machine is out of warranty, I still called them up when I had a question. I wanted to ask them, because it's a Windows 7 machine, I wanted to make sure that all the components in the machine are Windows 10 ready, because Windows 7 goes end of life on January 14th. So I wanted to make sure that I am ready and I am able to go to Windows 10. And they said yes. So, it's just a quick phone call, and they said yes. I said, I know my machine's out of warranty, and it would probably ordinarily cost for technical support. And they said, no, it's fine. So they said, what's the model and, my account number with them. So I gave them all of that details. And within about 20 minutes, they came back and they said, yep, your machine is definitely Windows 10 ready. You are good to go. So there you go. And I only have 8 gigs of RAM, but that's going to change. New year, new RAM. New year, new OS, because I'm going to go up to Windows 10. So yeah, lots of new things happening for me here, new website, new store, new courses going out that you guys can purchase in a few days' time. And then new OS and new RAM and all that kind of stuff. And new graphics and new branding, everything. Everything is new. I can hardly keep up with myself. So there you go. Mika is away. He says goodnight. Thanks for the nice conversation and all the best to everyone here. Woodby says, old school, nice channel you have. Woodby, it's good to see you, buddy. Kirk says, you too, Mika, you got to go as well. Thanks for the great show. Yeah, we are like nearly 10 minutes over time. So yeah, we will shut down the show now. What quad-core CPU is it? It's an Intel i5. And as I say, I have 8 gigs of RAM. But I think that will do us for the evening. I want to say a very big thank you to everybody for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I appreciate all your questions and all your comments. And as I say, stay tuned to my channel, because there will be some more stuff coming this week, over the next 2 or 3 days, to get your teeth into before next Sunday, when it is the plan that we will do a long show, probably starting 4 p.m. UK time. So if you're around at 4 p.m. UK time, come along. If there's nobody here, then I will maybe break it up into shorter streams, and I'll do one at this time. The usual Sunday night live will happen as well. It's not like this show is not going to happen next Sunday. It is. It will just probably become part of, the extended show. So if you are available at, what would it be? Let me think. 4 p.m. UK time. So I think that's around about 10 o'clock in the morning for you guys on a Sunday morning. If you are the church going type, you guys will probably be at church. But if you're not, be here. I would normally be at church, but I'm launching my new site, so I'm going to be here instead. So I will see you guys next week. And yes, it is Monday for me now, and I have to be up to get to my kids' school in the morning for school run. I love school run. Not. All right, folks, I will see you all very soon. Good night. I've lost my buttons. There we go. New graphics. Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody, and old school soul and funk and soul. I am in Edinburgh, Scotland, so I'm not far away from you. I'm just up the road. Have a very good night. See you next week.